I remember the day I opened my first savings account. I was 23. The bank lady smiled at me like I'd just made the smartest decision of my life. "You're building your future," she said. I believed her. For years, I did what I was told. Every paycheck, I'd move money into savings. $200 here, $500 there. Watching that number climb felt safe, responsible, like I was winning at adulting. But there was this weird thing that kept happening. My savings account balance would go up, but I never actually felt richer. In fact, the longer I saved, the more broke I felt, and I couldn't figure out why. Then one day, I did the math. Actually did it. And what I found, it pissed me off. Not at the bank, not at anyone specific, just at the system I didn't understand until it was almost too late. Here's what no one tells you when you're 22 and excited about your first savings account. That 0.5% interest rate they advertise? It sounds boring, but harmless. Except there's another number they don't put on the brochure. And that number is eating your money alive. Inflation, that's the word. You've heard it on the news, scrolled past it online, but until you actually calculate what it's doing to your savings account, it's just noise, background static. I wish someone had sat me down and shown me the real math. Let's say you have $10,000 in your savings account. You're earning 0.5% interest. That's $50 a year. Feels like something, right? But if inflation is running at 3%, your money just lost $300 in buying power every single year. You're not building wealth. You're preserving it poorly, like putting your food in a broken freezer. Sure, it's cold, but it's slowly going bad anyway. And here's the part that made me angry. I wasn't being reckless. I wasn't blowing money on stupid stuff. I was doing exactly what responsible people are supposed to do, and the system was punishing me for it. Quietly, invisibly, year after year. So when did your savings account become useless? The honest answer, probably years ago. Maybe the month inflation hit 2%. Maybe when interest rates dropped below 1%. The exact month doesn't matter as much as what you do next, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The moment I understood what was happening, I felt like an idiot. Not because I'm dumb, but because I'd spent 7 years saving money the safe way, and nobody told me safe didn't mean smart. There's a difference. I started asking people I trusted. My dad said, "Just keep saving." It's what I did. My coworker said, "At least it's not in your mattress." Everyone had an opinion. But when I asked them to explain the math, silence. Because nobody actually knew. So I went down the rabbit hole. YouTube videos, Reddit threads, finance blogs at 2 a.m. And slowly, painfully, I started to understand. The game wasn't rigged. It was just different than what I'd been taught. Here's what I learned. Rich people don't keep their money in savings accounts, not because they're reckless, because they understand something fundamental. Money sitting still is money dying slow. Inflation is a tax on cash, and if you're not beating it, you're paying it. Let me show you what this looks like over time. $20,000 in a savings account at 0.5% interest. After 10 years, with 3% average inflation, your money is worth about $15,000 in today's dollars. You didn't lose it. It just evaporated. And that's being generous. Some years, inflation hit 5%, even 7%. Your safe savings account, it was bleeding. But because the number on your screen kept going up by $50 a year, you felt like you were winning. That's the cruel trick. I felt stupid. Then I felt angry.
Then I realized this isn't taught in school. Your parents didn't know. The bank teller didn't know or didn't care. This is just how the system works. And nobody warns you until you figure it out yourself.
So here's the uncomfortable truth. If you are keeping more than 6 months of expenses in a regular savings account right now, you're doing exactly what the system wants you to do. Stay safe. Stay still. Stay poor.
Now, I'm not saying blow your emergency fund on crypto or day trade your rent money. That's just a different kind of stupid. What I'm saying is there's a line, and once your savings cross that line, the math changes, the rules change, and you need to change too.
The exact month your savings account became useless isn't one date. It's the month you realize what's happening. For me, it was March 2019. I had $31,000 saved. I felt responsible. And I was losing about $800 a year to inflation without knowing it. That was my month.
So what's the magic number? When does a savings account go from useful to useless? Honestly, it's probably lower than you think. And it depends on one thing: what that money is for.
Most financial experts say keep 3 to 6 months of living expenses in savings for emergencies, job loss, medical stuff, car breaks down. That makes sense. That money needs to be liquid, accessible, safe. But here's where people mess up.
They hit that 6-month mark and just keep piling money into savings. $15,000, $25,000, $40,000. It feels productive, but every dollar past your emergency fund is a dollar that's actively losing value. It's not emergency money anymore. It's just scared money.
Let's say your monthly expenses are $3,000. Rent, groceries, car, insurance, everything. 6 months is $18,000. That's your emergency fund. That lives in savings. But if you've got $30,000 sitting there, that extra $12,000 is dying, slowly and visibly.
I had this moment in 2019. I looked at my savings, $31,000. My 6-month emergency fund was $18,000, which meant $13,000 was just sitting there, earning nothing, losing to inflation. And I'd been proud of that number. That hurt.
Here's what changed everything for me. I asked myself one question. What am I actually afraid of? Why am I keeping this extra money in savings? And the answer was embarrassing. I was afraid because I didn't know what else to do with it. Fear. That's what keeps money in savings accounts. Not strategy. Fear of the stock market crashing. Fear of making the wrong move. Fear of losing what you worked so hard to save. And that fear costs you thousands of dollars a year. That was my wake-up call.
So I made a decision. Emergency fund stays in savings, always. But everything else, it goes to work. Index funds, retirement accounts, investments that actually beat inflation. And here's what shocked me. It wasn't scary. It was boring, simple, and it worked.
Within 2 years, that $13,000 I moved out of savings had grown to $17,000. Not because I'm a genius, not because I timed the market, just because it was actually invested instead of hiding. And my emergency fund? Still sitting safe in savings, right where it belongs.
The exact month your savings account became useless is the month you have more than you need for emergencies, and you're still not doing anything with it. That's the line, and most people don't even realize they've crossed it.
Look, I get it. If you're watching this and you've got $50,000 in savings, you might be feeling defensive right now, like I'm calling you stupid. I'm not. I was you. But here's what I wish someone had told me back then. Your savings account isn't evil. It served its purpose.
It taught you discipline, it gave you security when you had nothing. But tools have limits, and once you cross a certain threshold, you need different tools. That's not failure, that's growth.
Here's the simple framework I use now. First, calculate 6 months of expenses. That's your emergency fund floor. That money lives in a high-yield savings account. Not regular savings, high yield. At least get 4 or 5% if you can. It's still savings, but it fights back a little.
Second, anything beyond that 6-month mark goes into investments. Index funds, Roth IRA, 401k, whatever matches your goals and timeline. The key is, it's not sitting still anymore. It's working, growing, beating inflation instead of losing to it.
Third, don't panic when it goes down. Because it will. The market drops, it always does. But over 10, 20, 30 years, it goes up. That's not optimism, that's history. And unlike your savings account, your investment actually has a chance to grow faster than inflation eats it.
I know this sounds simple, maybe too simple, but that's the point. Wealthy people don't have secret strategies. They just don't let fear keep their money in places where it dies slowly. That's it. That's the whole game.
Now, am I saying take every dollar you have and throw it in the stock market tomorrow? No, that's reckless. You need a plan. You need to understand what you're doing. But doing nothing because you're scared? That's more expensive than you think.
When I finally moved that first $10,000 out of savings and into investments, my hands were shaking, I'm not going to lie. It felt wrong, dangerous. But 3 years later, that $10,000 is worth $14,000. And my savings account, $10,000? Still $10,000, but worth less because of inflation.
So, here's my challenge to you. Tonight, before you go to bed, open your banking app. Look at your savings account balance. Ask yourself, is this all emergency money? Or is some of it just hiding? Be honest, because that's the month it became useless. The month you knew and did nothing.
I can't tell you what to do with your money. Nobody can. But I can tell you what I learned the hard way. Saving money isn't the same as building wealth. And the sooner you understand the difference, the less you'll lose to the invisible tax that nobody talks about. Good luck.